I told you that why certain materials were picked, the ebony to try and get the attack that you would get off a 295. And, because of the different neck set angles and all that stuff on a 295, it's a much more attack instrument than it is a big full instrument with not that attack like a Les Paul would have. So we put ebony on it. One little features about the guitar that most people might not realize, like, for example, the bridge pickup. The bridge pickup is set further towards the neck than if you see most traditional Les Pauls or 335s, the spacing to how close the PAF is to the ABR1. This is set closer to the neck for, just to try to get a little bit more meat out of it. Mm-hmm. Little things like, thing that always bugged me about a 335 was that every time I'd go to switch it, because the switch was vertical, I'd go to swing my hand and it wouldn't always switch on me. Like when you look at a Les Paul, for example, and you have a selector switch, even though it's a vertical switch and it's not at an angle, the swing of your hand is vertical by the time you get this. You just blip, blip, Right. Same with a Stratocaster. With a Stratocaster, it's the sweep of your hand where that switch is.
Right.
So I had them routed underneath, so this switch comes at a 45-degree angle. So you can just go like that. Every time I would do that on a 335, it would never switch.
I got
it would always get hung up, So, just little things like that. The inlays were based on I'm into fleur-de-lis, so it was kind of an Art Deco fleur-de-lis, and then just carried on the split crowns through the design. And same thing with the F-holes. The shape of the F-hole is basically the outside shape of the fleur-de-lis here.
Right.
So in little things, it's completely hollow. The only place that there's any wood underneath is underneath the ABR1. There's two kidney-shaped kind of dowels that are carved out from the mahogany in the back so that the ABR1 can anchor without breaking the top.
Got it.
So they're maple tops and mahogany back and sides.
I love them. Everyone I've played has been delightful.
Yeah, you sound excellent playing it too. I mean, because you have such a multitude of styles under you that you can, you really make the guitar sound great.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. So it's been out since 2003, I was going to say.
It's a lot of years. 17 years in the line.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think now it's on a made-to-measure program. It's not like, I think you don't see it so much in the catalogs anymore, but it is in the made-to-measure and the legacy program. And, I think it's great because it is unique in the line. They don't make another guitar like it. And I think it's something that fulfills a need. It's definitely has a unique sound, has a unique feel, has a unique look. And but I think, for my money, it was a good combination of playability for a modern guy and aesthetically historical in a way without being a copy of something else. I know it has it harkens back to maybe people thinking about a Barney Kessel, a little mini
Right.
Barney Kessel or something like that. But yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You have two pointed cutaways. It's got to look like something.
But you've maintained having hair, so you can't have that bold comb over that Barney Kessel had back in the day.
Well, I'm not dead yet.
There's always tomorrow.
There's still time for that. I mean, I've decided to go white with the beard. I mean, I'm transitioning.
Yes, I can dig it. So when I first met you was back when we were both on the Favored Nations label back in the day, and your tune "Oh Yeah" was dominating in the what was it that I'm spacing, but there was a radio AAA radio, right?
Yeah,
AAA radio format,
Yeah.
And that was back when that existed. And of course, none of that stuff kind of exists anymore, but I don't want to be whining about what was and whatever. I mean, we kind of went through that situation, and we look forward to the future with whatever it'll be. It'll be something different. And as you said, there's, things change, but you just kind of adapt and you proceed to just kind of do the do. And so I think that for me, I think about, all the different things that, made my living kind of come to fruition weren't exactly things that I thought of as, oh, well, that'll be what I do. I just kind of like, oh, well, I like doing X, Y, and Z. These opportunities have manifested themselves, and let the good times roll. And I think you're kind of that same individual where it's just kind of like, oh, as you mentioned with the solo gig, it's like an opportunity came and you adapted to it. And that kind of speaks to what you got to do as a creative musician in this day and age. And you've always done that. I mean, walk us through like your initial, you were in Peter Wolf's band, but you were in bands before that, obviously, but kind of talk us through all the various different hats you've worn as a professional musician or in the music business to be able to be creatively satisfied while at the same time being able to eat, which is important.
Okay, well, if you go way back, Greg, I started as a drummer. And my first gig, I was 9 years old, was my first paying gig when I was 9 years old. And then the British invasion came out. And when I heard all that, I was always an Everly Brothers guy. I loved the Everly Brothers and, Elvis and all that stuff. And I was young, I was 57, 58 when I started listening to music. And then the Beatles came, and I immediately didn't want to play drums anymore. I just wanted an instrument that would allow me to create melody. I was into melody. And so I played in bands, and I was a singer in my own band for a long time. When I joined Peter Wolf, I was still singing background vocals, but I toured with him. And when I was on the road, I got this very, very bad bronchial infection that resulted in an extreme laryngitis. And when my voice came back, I never had the meat and potatoes range of a singing voice. I still had my high falsetto and I still had the low voice, but where you really need to sing for most songs as a male, that's gone, So when I left Wolf, which I played with him for almost 9 years, I wanted to put something together. I had kids just like you. I had kids. They had to eat, so I decided to put a band together, and I said, well, I can't sing. I'm not hiring a singer because whoever delivers the melody it's the band's voice. I don't care if it's Kenny G on a sax, if it's Joey DeFrancisco on a Hammond, or if it's Mick Jagger. Whoever's delivering the melody, that's the sound of your band. Not to take anything away from, sidemen or different band members, but it's the guy that delivers the melody that's the sound. So instead of trying to find a great singer, putting all kinds of money into demos and this and pictures, and then the guy leaves the band and you're stuck with nothing again. So that's when this whole idea of, well, maybe I can do this dream of becoming that piano player guy. Like I told you earlier, the whole guy, a piano lounge player that could deliver the whole song. So that's when I just started working on stuff. I wasn't really a great reader. I went to Berkeley for maybe a semester and a half, failed everything. I wasn't good at anything. The only thing I went for was arranging and composition and ear training. That's what I wanted to go for. I never went to the guitar lessons. I could barely read. I mean, when I say barely read, I knew rhythm charts because as a drummer, I took drum lessons. So I knew, beat durations and rests and, time signatures and all that. And just from being a kid in school, the notes on the staff, every good boy deserves favor, and FACE, face, I knew what notes were. So I got this book a friend of mine had given me years and years earlier. This thing, the complete Beatles, 2 volumes of every song with the right chords and the right everything. And I was determined to learn a song chord melody. And I just flipped through the thing and I said, whatever the song is, that's the one I'm going to learn. It was Till There Was You, the song from the Music Man. And I didn't want to read the little square boxes with the chords. So I blocked all them out and I knew how the melody went in my head. So I just started putting it together. If I tell you, it took me a week to learn that song. It was easily a week. And I had wrist muscles and finger muscles and hand muscles that killed me like they never did. And I had been playing, I was 40 years old by that time. I had been playing for a long time. And there was a nice sense of satisfaction doing it. And then one song turned into 3, turned into 10, turned into 25, turned into whatever. And basically the same thing happened with the solo thing. I got forced into a situation that said, okay, well, now I don't have a band anymore. So what am I going to do? Or I can't rely on a band anymore. I mean, that's what was happening. I mean, the guys that I played with, I was very, very fortunate to have always great rhythm sections and great players in the band. And as you know, when you're working with great players, they're in demand, and you can't always depend on the same guys. And what I didn't like about what was happening with me is the way my albums were structured and everything like that. It was the songs were arranged. They weren't like these open jam things. They were like arranged, and they had a lot of dynamics in it. And when I started to sub out with different players, even though they were great players, I was losing the personality of what I thought the band needed to be. And it just kind of happened that the solo thing came along at the right time. And you mentioned stuff about, Steve and that song and that album and that label. I got really lucky with that song. It was a song that I wrote in 4 minutes. The song's only 4 minutes long. And there was a radio format that accepted music like that at the time. There was only, I think, 32 stations across the country, but they were all big stations. And the song went to number one. It got me a great deal with a booking agent, a great boutique agency, the Rosebud Agency, Mike Kappas out in San Francisco. And, that's kind of how it started, and the record went on to sell, I don't know, 150,000 copies or something like that. And the song was number one across the country. And it afforded me to be able to do a second album that I did with Steve. And one of the songs off of that record got nominated for a Grammy on the Get Inside record. And, but you're right. You have to just adapt, adapt or die is what they say. And it's like, I have a lot of musicians and friends of mine now in this day and age that don't have gigs. And they're like, oh, geez, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you just got to do something. You got to find something to do. You can't be depressed about it because, I'm the type of guy with my booking agency. I'm up his butt all the time. How come I'm not working? All my friends are working. And he said to me, like recently, he goes, you've been really calm about, not getting any work. I said, well, I'm calm because nobody's getting any work. There's nowhere to work. So there's no reason for me to get anxious about it. There's nothing I can do about that. If I see, Davey Knowles out on tour and I see you out on tour and I see and I'm sitting at home and I don't have any gigs, now I'm anxious.
Right. Exactly.
But when you're in a situation like we're in now, where the venues can't open, you can't tour, you can't do anything, what are you going to do?
Exactly. You
can't get upset about it.
Nope. Doesn't pay to get upset about it by Jimmy.
It's going to be,
what's bizarre about it is that, I just like playing guitar and, I've talked about this with a couple of different folks during these interviews where it's just like, I've been very fortunate because I do enough different stuff that I can do it from my house and not up to this point, I've been spared any kind of, real financial hardship, which I'm very appreciative of. But, given my druthers, I just sit in a corner and play guitar anyway, which, you know what I mean? Which, I wake up in the morning and first thing I want to do is, I get a little coffee, I sit down and I just start playing, you know what I mean? And
right.
And it's almost one of those things where being off like this gives you an opportunity to reflect on what you've done and kind of revisit some of the things like, that really wasn't that bad, because I don't know about you. I'm sure you're the same way. It's always the next thing, there's never any time to kind of just go, yeah, well, that was cool. Or this was that. You're so focused in the moment of getting a record done and then you tour behind it and then you're done and you're on to the next thing. But all of a sudden you got a little time to take a breath and kind of look, hey, that was kind of cool. Maybe I should revisit that and maybe do it a little different than now or write new stuff. But it's just been kind of an interesting time to reflect on all things, you know what I mean? As far as, playing and tunes you've written or tunes you will write or, honing on refining different things. Have you found this to be the case with yourself at this point in time?
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking through some old, I'm sure you're like me with your iPhone. You get an idea, you put it on your iPhone, and then you forget about it.
Yeah.
And I was going through some old voice memos. There's like 300 of them on my phone.
Right.
And I'm listening to them. I said, well, wow, that was kind of cool.
Right.
I forgot that. I forgot all about that, and yeah, and then you get re-inspired, and then
Right.
it takes you into another direction or something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, we're a lot alike that way. I think that, like I see a lot of people now, a lot of kids. I won't mention any names. So I see a lot of kids, and they're really excited about being in the business for the celebrity of it all.
Right.
And I still am not that way. I mean, I know why I started playing music. I play music because I love playing music. I love playing the guitar. I love hearing the sound of a pure guitar. And that's what keeps me going. It's not the drugs. It's not the chicks. It's not even really the money. I mean, if I could live without having to make money doing it, I would do it anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really, I mean, the thing is you need to make money to be able to sustain what you do. But I would play for free every day if I didn't need them. If I was independently wealthy, I would just do it. I wouldn't care if I got paid for a gig or I didn't. I just like doing it.
Exactly.
And, so I was talking to Elliot Easton the other day about that. It's the same thing. He says, I would play if I did. He said to me, if I didn't get lucky with the cars, I would be playing in some dive somewhere because I just love to play.
Right. And that's the way it is.
But there's different people now are different. I think, I talk to a lot of kids that they just want to be stars,